When I worked day yesterday, anybody have a trip report you'd like to present?
Well, our group got to see Jim in action.
You what?
Our group saw you in action.
We had a great day. I'm all refueled and ready to go. But yeah, we were out in West Dallas yesterday.
And Jim, what I didn't know they did, we were with an organization that has attorneys with the organization, and they get members, people who live in the neighborhood, to be their clients, and then they file legal action against drug houses in order to close it down. So we were with that agency, and that's one of the things they do. But I didn't know people were doing that, and I think you said it's.
Park City's Baptist Church.
Yeah, some of the.
We got a few attorneys around.
So,
But no, it's a novel idea. You
Yeah.
just go into the neighborhood, close down the crack house,
yeah.
and then that helps make the neighborhood safer and sounder. And and it's the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit's in all of this. And there were folks that we're suing, and we went over and we prayed with them, laid hands on them, and they're crying and weeping.
Yeah.
No, it's a spiritual thing. I can highly recommend it. All right. Well, we have. Maybe this week we'll finish up on our comparative study of the Resurrection Sunday. And we're doing this because on Resurrection Sunday we have so many visitors that come, and so many people that just come 2 or 3 times a year, that there are a lot of deep truths that are really special and really unique, and the Lord wants us to know, and that He shared with us in His Word. But because you have to have more of an entry-level approach to it on Resurrection Sunday, there are many things with great meaning, specifically to the Christian part of Resurrection, that for the 3 times a year, that means it's go to heaven. And so we'll work on that a little bit today. And so we're going to add a few more characters to our cast. We started out 2 weeks ago, and we looked at all the people that were responsible there for the death of Jesus. And we had the chief priest, right? And then we had the people. We had the soldiers. And then the thieves, because at the very beginning, both of the thieves were cursing, and both of the thieves were blaspheming. And so we had, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they do. And so the thief comes to faith, and the soldier comes to faith, and then the people, they're beating their chest, and then they're the ones that come to faith on the day of Pentecost, and then hundreds of priests also come to faith. So on Palm Sunday, they're crying out to Jesus, save us, save us, save us. And what happens? Yeah, He makes the way for them to get saved. And we can all put them in the category of what? They have different roles to play, but they're all murderers. They're murderers. The Lord Jesus Christ birthed the church out of murderers, and just not any murderers. Murderers that murdered an innocent man. And we're going to add a little bit to that list today, but when you look at the history of God and the pattern of God, and you ask people today, you say, well, look, and we didn't see any of this yesterday, but sometimes you'll ask them, well, are you saved? What's your relationship with the Lord? And they'll say, well, I'm basically a good person. I haven't murdered anybody. Oh, yeah, well, we'll take a look at that today, but let's look back and we see the man who gave us the law. Who gave us the law? Moses. And Moses was a murderer. And who gave us grace? Who preached grace? It was Paul. And Paul was a murderer. Okay? There is a way. Even for murderers, especially. Okay. So, we'll pick up where we left off last week. And last week we had looked at the 2 angels. When Mary comes back to the tomb, she runs off and tells the disciples. And John is running and Peter is running, and they come to the tomb, the empty tomb. And then they're invited in, and Mary is taking a look in there. And so she sees this beautiful picture. She sees this beautiful picture of where Jesus was laying. And there was an angel. There was an angel at the foot of where Jesus was. And then there was an angel at the head of Jesus was. It's a beautiful picture of the mercy seat that He wanted Mary to come in. We know that the stone was rolled away. Not that Jesus could get out. It was that we could take a look in. And we could see what was going on inside of the empty tomb. So let's figure this out. We had this vision, this image. And we know the Ark of the Covenant played a prominent role in telling people about Jesus. Everything about the Ark points to Jesus. Everything about the temple, everything about the tabernacle, everything points to Jesus. From the sacrificial lamb to the laver, to the washing of the water of the word. I'm the light of the world. I'm the bread of life. And then we go in front of the mercy seat. Now, we've got these two angels in the mercy seat, and we think, well, you know, in the post-Renaissance period, we have all these paintings of all these cherubim and all these angels, and we think, well, these are just kind of nice, friendly folks. Well, no, that's not true. We see little chubby things floating around. Where do we first see the cherubim? Where do they first pop up? All right, let's go to Genesis. Well, let's go to Genesis, and we'll go to Genesis. How about Genesis 3? After they get tossed out of the garden, at the end of Genesis 3. Here we go. Genesis 3:24. So their expulsion from the garden takes place, and verse 23. Therefore the Lord God sent him forth from the garden to Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubim and a flaming sword, which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. So he's got these cherubim. What do? They've got swords. This isn't the only time that we see these angels with swords. We have the angel of death when David is praying, and David is saying, oh my goodness, what have I done in taking the census of the people? And the angels are striking down the people. With Balaam, we see the angel of the Lord when Balaam's coming and the donkey's telling, hey, why do you want me to go this way? Can't you see the angel's about to change the part of your hair? We see these cherubim, and these cherubim are warriors. They're fierce. And this would have been a scary thing, and that's why, without exception, when these angels appear to men, what's the first thing they say? The first thing,
Fear not.
fear not, because they're scary. They're scary. They're scary things. And so you look at the Ark of the Covenant. What happens if you were to touch the Ark and you weren't a part of the tribe of Levi? You die. Remember when David was taking the Ark over to Jerusalem, and he was bringing it in ox carts, about to fall over into the dirt? What happened?
The
guy
touched
reached
it to
out.
stabilize it.
He touched it,
died.
stabilized it. What happened? He died. Why?
First problem was it was on an ox cart instead of being carried appropriately. Or grease. Yeah.
That's the first thing. And the second thing is he was worried because it was going to fall in the mud. The mud would not have defiled the Ark of the Covenant. It's the sin of men that defiles the Ark of the Covenant. And you've got these cherubim there. All right. So we see the cherubim at the very beginning. Now, we've got a problem. The way of life, the tree of life, is guarded by cherubim. How in the world are we going to get through? And the Lord himself put those cherubim in place. Well, let's take a look at the ark itself, and let's see what's inside the ark. Okay? I'm not a big servant. What's in the ark? What's in there?
Tablets and the rod of Aaron.
Okay, let's go to Hebrews 9:4, and let's take a look at this, and let's start putting these things in. Now, these angels with attitude at the Garden of Eden, they are facing which way? East. Okay? All right. They're guarding it from the east. So penetration is going to have to be from the east. Okay. We'll just kind of run back and go on. Let's go to Hebrews 9:4. Hebrews 9:4. Let's take a look at what's in the ark. So we have the writer of Hebrews telling us in verse 4. Verse 3. And after the second veil, the tabernacle, which is called the holiest of all, which had the golden censer and the ark of the covenant, overlaid round about with gold, wherein there was a golden pot that had manna. All right, so inside we've got a golden pot. And what does the golden pot have? Manna. What else is in there? Aaron's rod that budded. So we have Aaron's rod, the stick, budded out. And then we have the tables of the covenant. Now, anything unusual about those tables of the covenant? Book 2. What happened to book 1?
Moses broke it.
He broke them. The 10 Commandments.
Yeah.
Okay.
All shattered in pieces.
Shattered them to pieces. All right. Let's put these in order, and let's take a look at this. Let's start first with Deuteronomy 10:2. And let's see what truths we can find here. Deuteronomy 10:2. What was it start verse 9? The second tables of stone. 10 Commandments, second edition. At that time the Lord said unto me, hew these 2 tables of stone, like unto the first, and come up unto me onto the mount, and make thee an ark of wood. And I will write on the tables the words that were in the first tables, which thou breakest, and thou put them in the ark. Now just a reminder, now remember you broke that first thing. I want you to come up here, I'm going to give you another set in verse 3. I made an ark of shittim wood and hewed 2 tables of stone like unto the first, and went up into the mount having the 2 tables in my hand. And he wrote on the tables according to the first writing the 10 Commandments, which the Lord spake unto you in the mount out of the midst of the fire in the day of assembly, and the Lord gave them unto me. And I turned myself and came down from the mount, and put the tables in the ark, which I made, and there they may be as the Lord commanded. Very interesting that they were broken, because it was representative of what was going on when he broke them. Why did he break them? He was furious. He'd just come down from 40 days up on the mountain. He's coming down here, and what are the Jews doing? What are they doing? They're doing the Cotton Eye Joe around this golden calf. Not only that, they're naked. Now, I thought we just did a study of naked. We said nobody likes to be naked in front of God. It just shows you it's okay to be naked when there's no God there, when there's a false God. You're okay with that? Okay with that? Okay. All right. So they're in all this trouble. He breaks it. And so the covenant, the day 1, he's just coming down from the mount. And what's the first thing we see? The covenant is broken. It's broken. And he throws them down and dashes them into pieces, and that's representative of the broken covenant, right? Okay. So we got the 10 Commandments in there, and then let's see what happens next. Let's go to Numbers 17. And we see Aaron's rod. Oh, I skipped one. Sorry, Exodus 16:32. Exodus 16:32. We didn't put the mannequin yet. Exodus 16:32. And Moses said, this is the thing which the Lord commanded, fill an omer of it to be kept for your generations, that they may see the bread wherewith I have fed you in the wilderness, when I brought you forth from the land of Egypt. And Moses said unto Aaron, take a pot and put an omer full of manna therein, and lay it up before the Lord to be kept for your generations. As the Lord commanded Moses, so Aaron laid it up before the ark of the testimony to be kept. And the children of Israel did eat manna 40 years until they came to the land inhabited. They did eat manna until they came unto the borders of the land of Canaan. Now an omer is a 10th part of an ephah. So we've got this manna, and the manna is what God's provision. And before they were given the manna, what were they telling Moses? Moses, you brought us out into the desert for us to die. You have brought us here to die. But we see, no, the Lord provided manna, and that was proof of it. And they go, well, he provided a provision. He provided a provision for them. And the truth is, they said they were going to die. They did not die because they didn't have manna. They died for other reasons, right? See verse 1. Broken covenant. Okay. Now let's go and put in Aaron's rod. So, number 17. So we have this big dispute. The spies have come back, and the spies have given a bad report. So Moses said, all right, we've got trouble now. We've given this bad report, and they want to question his authority. And so they've come up to Moses, and here's what happens. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speaking to the children of Israel, and take every one of them a rod according to the house of their fathers, with all their princes according to the house of their fathers, 12 rods. Write thou every man's name upon his rod. And thou shalt write Aaron's name upon the rod of Levi, for 1 rod shall be for the head of the house of the fathers. And thou shalt lay them up before the tabernacle of the congregation, before the testimony, where I will meet with you. Okay, I'm going to meet you at the Ark of the Covenant. We're going to settle this dispute. I'm going to tell you who's in charge here. And everybody bring a rod. And rod, these dead sticks. Bring these dead sticks, and I will make the decision as to who is to lead the people and who has access to the throne of God. Verse 5, and it shall come to pass that the man's rod whom I shall choose shall blossom. And I will make to cease from me the murmurings of the children of Israel, whereby they murmur against me. And Moses spake unto the children of Israel, and every one of their princes gave him a rod apiece. And every prince went according to their father's houses, each 12 rods, and the rod of Aaron was among the rods. And Moses laid up the rods before the tabernacle of witness. And it came to pass that on the morrow, the next day, Moses went into the tabernacle of witness. And behold, the rod of Aaron for the house of Levi was budded, and brought forth buds, and bloomed blossoms, and yielded almonds. It budded, it blossomed, and it yielded almonds. Now, of all things, you have all these dead sticks. And from the dead sticks, one dead stick comes back to life. It blossoms and it produces fruit. Now, when they were wandering around the desert, were there any planting, any agriculture that was going along on behalf of the Hebrews? No. And so what do you have here? You have this dead stick. You have life from something that's dead. And you'd have to call that. Because they're not growing in it, that would have to be a first fruit. No, it was the first fruit, it was the only fruit. That's it. That's it. And this has incredible significance because it's an almond. And that should have been a sign to the people, look, I'm not only budding this out, I need to show you the truth, and I need to show you the way, and I need to show you what? What? I need to show you light. You need light. I want to bud these almonds out. Where were the almonds? Where were the almonds? Let's go to Genesis 43:11. Almonds were a very, very rare delicacy. And when Joseph was returning after the famine, he brought something very valuable. In Genesis 43:11, and their father Israel said unto them, if it must be so, now do this. Take the best fruits in the land in your vessels. Carry down a man a present, a little balm, a little honey, spices and myrrh, nuts, and almonds. Okay? Almonds, very, very rare. Okay, let's go to Genesis 25:33. Oops, sorry. It's Genesis. Sorry, Exodus 25:33. We're in Exodus now. We're going to look at what the almonds have to do. Exodus 25:33. When they were making the lampstand, the menorah, the shapes of the branches, the shapes of the bowls were what? Verse 33. 3 bowls made like unto almonds, with a knob and a flower in one branch, and 3 bowls make like almonds in the other branch, with a knob and a flower. So in the 6 branches that come out of the candlestick. And in the candlestick shall be 4 bowls made like almonds, with their knobs and their flowers. And let's go over to Exodus 37:19. Exodus 37:19. And 3 bowls made after the fashion of almonds in one branch, a knob and a flower, and 3 bowls made like almonds in the other branch, a knob and a flower. So throughout the 6 branches going out of the candlestick, and the candlestick were full of 4 bowls made like almonds. So you have these almonds, and this, the menorah itself, all these bowls, they're shaped like almonds. Okay, so they're seeing this bud like almonds, and it puts to dispute the rest. Look. Only the Levites can approach the ark. Only they have the light at this time. Nobody else is able to approach the ark. Can't do it. And so we have the redemptive plan. Everything about it points to Jesus, not only the elements with which it was made, but you see we start out with a broken covenant, and then we have God's provision, and then we have life after death, producing first fruits that they could literally see, oh yeah, the almonds have everything to do with life. And it's all covered by what? These cherubim. And when the priest brought the sacrifice, when he would bring the sacrifice, he was sprinkled seven times the blood on the altar. And then the Lord would meet with them on the altar 7 times. Now, he had to toss the blood in a specific way. How did he have to toss it? What direction? Okay, let's figure this out. Let's go to...
Back up just a minute.
Yes. Go on.
Levi,
Yeah.
another thing about him, he was a murderer. Levi and Simeon were the 2 brothers who went and killed, massacred the whole town because the guy had raped their sister.
Because Diana was right. Something that's true. He was a murderer. So the only one who can approach the ark is the murderer. I seem to be getting a pattern. But that shows you just how grace is. And when they were, let's go to Leviticus 16:2, and let's solve this problem. Leviticus 16:2. Oh, it wasn't only that. I mean, but before he killed them, how did he kill them?
They told them they had to be circumcised, and then they attacked them while they were all selfless.
Diana got raped, and so Levi goes over there and said, look, we're going to make this truce pact with you, but before we can have this truce pact, y'all are going to have to be circumcised, every single one of you. Right? So they circumcised them all, and the Bible is very clear, before they were yet healed.
They attacked them.
He kept an attack. Well, they couldn't put up a defense. Oh. So he wasn't just a murderer. Now that was premeditated.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a bad murderer. Okay. All right. Leviticus 16:2. And so we have the mercy seat. Let's start with 16:1. And the Lord spake unto Moses after the death of the 2 sons of Aaron, when they offered before the Lord and they died. The first sacrifice was not accepted. Verse 2. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, speaking to Aaron thy brother, that he come not at all into the holy place within the veil before the mercy seat which is upon the ark, that he die not. I will appear before the cloud of the mercy seat. So I said, okay, look, let me tell you how this is going to be done. There's only one way that I will meet with you. I will meet you at the mercy seat, but it has to be done one way. You can't just come in there. There's going to have to have blood. You have to have blood. But you got these scary cherubim there. Who wants to approach that anyways? When the priest goes in, he's got to sprinkle blood. Now let's see how the blood is sprinkled. Go over to Leviticus 16:14. Remember, the cherubim are guarding it from the east. Leviticus 16:14. And he shall take of the blood of the bullock and sprinkle it with his finger upon the mercy seat eastward. And before the mercy seat he shall sprinkle the blood with his finger 7 times. And we know from our studies and from the resurrection and the crucifixion, there were 7 points where Jesus bled, right? 7 points from which he bled. What are they? Hand, 1, 2, 3. Feet, 3, 4. Pierced from the side, that's 5. Crown of thorns, scourged on the back. 7 points of contact for the blood. 7 points of contact on the ark, sprinkled towards the east. And only then could the covenant be revealed. Only then could the covenant be fulfilled. And that's why when the angels, they want Mary to come see this. When Jesus said it's finished, he wasn't kidding. It's finished. Full, total revelation has been made. Total cleansing, total redemption, acceptable sacrifice. Why? Because he was risen. Acceptable sacrifice. What happened to the priest if the sacrifice was unacceptable? He died, and he wasn't resurrected. He died, and that's why when the priest would go into the Holy of Holies, he would wear a little bell on his ephod. And the bell would dingle, ding, dingle. That way they would know, okay, he's still alive. Nothing's gone bad. The cherubim aren't too mad yet. And they would tie a rope into his ankle. In case he did die, okay, we don't hear the bell anymore. Okay, that Levi's done. Get him out of there. So they wouldn't have to come in, so they just pull him out. Okay, let's try this again. So you see the full completion of the redemptive purposes of God. All right, let's go back then to Resurrection Sunday. Last week we took a look at the women. Let's take a look at the men. Before we go there, let's lay a little bit of a predicate. Let's go to John 3:16, but let's back up just a little bit. And we see that John 3:16, in the totality of the passage, is really a story about snakes, right? John 3:16. We love to quote this, and if you go to the football games, there's a guy with the orange hair. Is he still there between the goalposts? John 3:16. We're going to back up a little bit. And then we have this Pharisee, and this is very, very important, who this man is. Okay? This man is a Pharisee. This man is who? Nicodemus, a ruler of the Jews. All right? He's a member of what? Sanhedrin. Really, really, really mega super important. Okay. Nicodemus, we're going to call him, his friends called him Nick. Nick is a Pharisee. He's also a ruler in the Sanhedrin. Okay, that's you. We're going to put Nick in our castle church. Okay, let's go on through. And so we know this story, and we've studied this out. He's coming to Jesus and said, Rabbi, we know that you're a teacher, come from God. For no man can do these miracles that thou doest except God be with him. And Jesus answered and said, Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom. And Nicodemus, please answer the question, well, how can a man be born again? And Jesus says, we must be born by flesh and spirit. And then we see in verse 14, John 3:14, as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of God be lifted up, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have eternal life. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. And you know the rest of that story. So he's telling Nick, he said, look, you must be born again. He is a member of the Pharisee. He would have been considered righteous by the population, a follower of the law, a keeper of the Hebrew tenets. But Jesus is telling the Pharisee, no, you must be born again, and I must be lifted up. And what happened? What's the story of Moses of the snakes in the wilderness?
To save them from the venomous snakes that he had sent. To punish them.
Well, they're there grumbling and griping and complaining, and so there are these fiery serpents that are among them, and the serpents are biting them. They say, oh, Moses, help us from the fiery serpents. They said, okay. So what does Moses do? He raises a standard, right? And on that standard, he has a snake. There is a snake. And so he raises the standard, and what does he tell them to do? Look at the standard. And what? That's just Jesus become sin. This is what's going to happen. I must be lifted up like this. I must become sin. And those who look to me will be saved, Nick. I'm telling you, this is true. Now, what happens to Nick after that? Well, let's find out. Let's see what happens. Okay, let's start with Matthew 27, and we'll do our comparative study, and we'll get the full counsel of God by going back and forth. We'll do some jumping around here. Matthew 27. 57. I think that's where we left off. Okay. The burial of Jesus. And when the evening was come, now this would be between 3 to 6 p.m. We know that there was this time of 3 hours of darkness. And we know in that darkness there wasn't much sacrificing going on at the temple at that time. There had to have been total confusion. The only lamb that was being sacrificed at that time was Jesus. So we had the evening come, and there's this rich man named Joseph of Arimathea, who also himself was Jesus' disciple. And he went to Pilate and begged the body of Jesus. Then Pilate commanded the body to be delivered. All right. So what do we know about Joseph? We learn something about Joseph in every gospel. Here we see that he was what kind of man? A rich man. And that fulfills the prophecy that was back in Isaiah 53. Let's keep our thumb there, go to Isaiah 53:9. It's going to be like Bible drill today. You'll be so happy you went to Bible drill. Isaiah 53:9. And he made his grave with the wicked. That's where he should have been, because he was crucified with the thieves and with the rich in his death. Because he had done no violence, neither was there any deceit in his mouth. And so he's with the rich in his death, and that's true. So we have Joseph of Arimathea. Joseph's rich. Joseph comes and he buries him. Now, we've got to bring the Pharisees back into this because they understood something that Jesus said. And let's go to Matthew 12:38. Matthew 12:38. And the Pharisees had come to Jesus, and they were trying to trap him, and they wanted some kind of sign from Jesus. And here's what Jesus says. In verse 38, and there was certain of the scribes and of the Pharisees answered him, saying, Master, we would see a sign from thee. And he answered and said unto them, An evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, but there shall no sign be given to it, but the sign of the prophet Jonah. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's. So who's he speaking to here? He's speaking to the Pharisee. He's speaking to the Pharisee. So they're kind of understand this. You know, they've heard him say this. They understand this. So this is going to call them into action. And one other predicate. Let's go to John 10:17. And this is really important. Okay, we have Nick. He's a member of the Sanhedrin. We have Jesus on the cross, and at evening time, he's put on the cross at 9. He's really just 6 hours. Okay, six hours on the cross. Because 3 o'clock that early evening, they're already taken down. That is an extremely short time to be on the cross. Extremely, extremely short. Typically, a crucifixion would take 2 days, sometimes 3 days. And that's why the Romans would have to come and break the legs of the person on the cross. And the way they broke it, actually the word break here means to splinter. They would take a mallet and they would splinter their legs so that they couldn't push up anymore to take a breath, and they would die of suffocation. So this is a very, very short time to be on the cross. But the key to that is right here, and it's in John 10:17. And in John 10:17, what is the Lord saying? He gives his sermon about being the good shepherd, and in verse 17 he says this, Therefore doth my Father love me, because I lay down my life, that I might take it again. No man taketh it from me, but I lay it down of myself. I have power to lay it down, I have power to take it again. This commandment have I received of my Father. So Jesus is saying, I have the power to do this. I have the power to take my life. I have the power of resurrection. I have that power. All right. And so we'll see how this plays later on. So let's go now back to Mark 15:14. And we're going to see what Pilate thinks about all this. Mark 15:14. And we'll see the same story about Nicodemus coming in. Sorry, Mark 15:44. Mark 15:44. And in verse 43, we see Joseph of Arimathea, an honorable counselor, member of the Sanhedrin, which also waited for the kingdom of God, came and went in boldly unto Pilate and craved the body of Jesus. In verse 44, and Pilate marveled if he were already dead. Pilate's marveled. So wait a minute, I would just put him on there. And you're asking me for his body? He shouldn't be dead by now. He shouldn't be dead right now. So Pilate's marveling at the time frame. So here's what he does. He calls unto the centurion and asks him whether he had been any while dead. And when he knew it of the centurion, he gave the body to Joseph. So he's doing a death check here. So Pilate's saying, wait, he hadn't been on there enough time for him to be dead. I'm going to send my centurion over there to make sure this man is dead. And the centurion goes over there and they check, and what happens? Do they break the bones on the thieves? Yeah. On both of the thieves, they smashed their legs. They dealt with Jesus. They say, well, you know what? We don't need to smash his bones. He's already dead. Let's go on and we'll thrust a spear in his heart, just for safekeeping. But they went back and reported to Pilate, and Pilate, hey, this guy's dead. He's dead. Okay? And so we have Jesus saying on the cross, he's the one that says, he says, it is finished. Now, why were they in such a rush to get him off of the cross? That's right. It was a high Sabbath. And that body had to be down off the cross before the high Sabbath. Let's go to Deuteronomy 21:22, and let's see where that precept is found. Deuteronomy 21:22. And if a man have committed a sin, and this is a fascinating law here, because this comes into place 1,400 years before the Romans invented crucifixion. Okay, here it is. And if a man have committed a sin worthy of death, and he be put to death, and thou hang him on a tree, his body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but thou shalt in any wise bury him that day. And here's the prophecy. For he that hang is accursed of God, that thy land be not defiled, which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance. As far as I know, Jesus would have been the only one that would have fit this category for this law. So, hey, we better pull out this law here. We need to get this guy down. All right. So, they want to get him off the tree. The great irony is this. We've got to get him off the tree before 6 o'clock because we don't want to violate the high Sabbath. Isn't it fascinating that they kill the Lord of the Sabbath in order to keep the Sabbath? How does that work? Okay, all right. So we see this taking place. So Pilate, they give the body to Pilate. And let me tell you why that's important too. You know, when Jesus says it's finished, if he is truly sinless, having not broken any of the tenets of the faith, not even in his death did he violate the tenets of the canon. He's off the tree and buried before the last time. He's off the tree and buried. Perfection in life, perfection in death, all the way through. And that's why all of these are saying, you know, surely this man has not done anything wrong. Ever. Ever. All right. And then we know from Psalm 34:20, let's go to Psalm 34:20, and this is important. Psalm 34:20, and this is the messianic prophecy in regards to Jesus. He keepeth all his bones, not one of them is broken. And why is it important that his bones not be broken? Why is that important? Number one, the lamb must be perfect. And it's one of the specific statutes. Let's go to Exodus 12:46. Exodus 12:46. And this is regarding the ordinance of Passover and bringing in the Passover lamb. In one house shall it be eaten. Thou shalt not carry forth out of the flesh abroad out of the house, neither shall ye break a bone thereof, and all the congregation of Israel shall keep it. So for the Passover lamb to be accepted, there cannot be a broken bone. No broken bones. Very fascinating that the other bones of the two other men were smashed, but Jesus was not. Why? So he could be an acceptable sacrifice unto God. So we see all these prophecies that are coming through. And what did Jesus die of? We have all the scourging, and we have the blood, and we have the taunting. Let's go to Psalm 69:20. Psalm 69:20 is about messianic prophecy. And this explains why he died so quickly. His bones were not broken. Let's pick it up in verse 19. Psalm 69:19. Thou hast known my reproach and my shame, and my dishonor. Mine adversaries are all before me. Reproach hath broken my heart, and I am full of heaviness. And I looked for some to take pity, but there was none, and for comforters, but I found none. So he's the experience of the cross again, well before. This is written 1,000 years before crucifixion was invented. And he's doing through all the details of the crucifixion. Said they have broken my heart. They have broken my heart. And it's important that he was pierced, because later on in Zechariah we see that they come to faith, seeing the one they have pierced, and they weep. They weep. Okay, let's go back to Matthew and finish this out. Matthew 27. So Joseph then, he takes the body, he wraps it clean in a linen cloth, and laid it up in his own tomb, which he had hewn out of the rock, and rolled the great stone to the door of the sepulchre, and departed. And you can see the love that was taking place here. He would have had to, they would take the cross down and they'd lay it flat. And so you could see him just gently taking Jesus' hands over the heads of the nails, and maneuvering his feet over the heads of the spikes. And then this wrapping, they would take the ointment, and they would lay the ointment, and they would wrap it, kind of like we made paper mache in strips. And that's how he goes out of the world, with this anointing and with these strips laid upon him. And then he lays a napkin on his face. How did Jesus come into the world? How was he wrapped? Swaddling clothes. That's a sign. It's a sign. He goes out in swaddling clothes. And they're going to bring myrrh. We're going to see the myrrh here. And when the wise men were coming, they brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Myrrh is what? That's embalming fluid. Don't take that to your next baby shower. It will not be well received. Okay. So let's go over to, let's look at the guards. Verse 62. Now the next day that followed, the day of preparation, the chief priests and Pharisees came together to Pilate, saying, Sir, we remember that deceiver said, while I was yet alive, after 3 days I will arise again. They're pointing back to that specific instance. We're saying, you're going to see the sign of Jonah. I'll be in the ground 3 days and 3 nights, and I'm coming out. So they're going to Pilate and say, well, look, that liar, he said these things. 64, command therefore that the sepulchre be made sure until the 3rd day, lest his disciples come by night and steal him away, and say unto the people, he's risen from the dead, so that the last error shall be worse than the first. You think you had problems when Jesus was alive. Can you imagine the problem we're going to have now that he's dead if we can't account for that body? All right? So here's what Pilate says. Pilate said unto them, okay, you'll have a watch. Go make your way. Make it as sure as you can. So they went and made the sepulchre sure, and they were sealing it with a stone and setting up a watch. Okay. Let's jump over to Mark. Let's put this together. Mark 15:43. So we saw that Pilate marveled how he had died to sin. Verse 46, and he brought fine linen and took him down and wrapped him in linen and laid him in a sepulchre which was hewn out of a rock, and rolled the stone unto the door of the sepulchre. And then let's pick this up in Luke 23:50. And behold, there was a man named Joseph, a counselor, And he was a good man and just. The same had not consented to the counsel and deed of them. So we have Nicodemus, we have Joseph of Arimathea, friend of Joe. And now he's a member of the Sanhedrin. He's in good standing. He's called just. And even when he met Jesus, he said, well, I've done everything else. What must I do? We know that Joseph did not agree to the killing of Jesus Christ. Now, what does this do? In order to enter into a death penalty offense and have the death penalty executed, the vote of the Sanhedrin had to be unanimous. It had to be unanimous. It was not unanimous. It was a wrongful killing. It was a wrongful declaration. It was a wrongful execution. Why is that important? It's important because only the Sanhedrin can declare a man unjust, worthy of crucifixion. If it is not unanimous, it is not so. It did not happen. So what's the inverse? The Sanhedrin did not find him unrighteous. They did not find him unrighteous. The thief did not find him unrighteous. The soldier said, surely this is the Son of God. The people left beating their breasts and they come to faith in Pentecost and hundreds of priests. All of these witnesses testified to the innocence of this man. Every single one testified to the innocence of this man. And the sacrifice was accepted. And let's get our last character in here. And let's go over to John 20. And I know we're out of time. We might not be able to finish this today. Okay, we'll do this quickly. 20:38. So we have Joseph of Arimathea, and look who shows up in verse 39. And John 19, I'm sorry, John 19:39. Sorry. John 19:39. Who shows up? Nicodemus. Nicodemus shows up. And there came also Nicodemus, which at the first came to Jesus by night. Remember, he came at night because he was scared. He's a member of the Sanhedrin. And he's asking Jesus about these eternal truths. And look what he brings. And he brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 100-pound weight. Then took they the body of Jesus, wound it in linen clothes, with the spices and the manner of the Jews is to bury. Now in the place where he was crucified there was a garden, and in the garden was a new sepulchre, wherein was never a man laid. There they laid Jesus, therefore, because the Jews' preparation day. The sepulchre was nigh at hand. So it was very, very close. And that was important too, because they were pressed for time. To get him off the cross, get him anointed, get him wrapped, get him in the tomb before 6 o'clock sundown. That all was accomplished so that the Sabbath was kept even by Jesus in his death. So we have all these characters lining up, and they all play different roles, but they all attest to the truth of Jesus Christ. And we know not only was it not unanimous, there were at least 2 no votes. That's right. At least 2 no votes. At least 2 no votes. And something. This is an aside. You know, in Leviticus, if you had children that were misbehaving, could you stone them?
Yes.
Oh, you can stone them. Is there any record in this book or in Josephus or anywhere else of any child ever being stoned? No. 0. Why? Because you had to have unanimous vote of the Sanhedrin for the death penalty. And there was already somebody's uncle or somebody, oh no, give the kid a break. No. It was on the books, but it never happened. And here it happens and it's illegal. It's an amazing thing. An amazing thing. Okay, we'll finish this out next week. And musicians, I'm sorry, you gotta go.
Jim,
Yes.
an interesting aside also, when you said, isn't it interesting how they were worried about keeping the Sabbath, the murder, the Lord of the Sabbath. It goes back to the point where men can manipulate the law, but not the person, which Jesus showed throughout his ministry, and that's the reason why they hated him so much.
And they did.
They tried